Welcome to Forbes Newsroom. Joining me now is Rob LaFranco, assistant editor here at Forbes. Rob, thank you so much for joining me today.
Always a pleasure.
Great. So you're here to talk all things entertainment. Let's kick it off in the music space. So the official charts company is celebrating 70 years, and to commemorate that, they made a list of the most streamed songs every year since 1952. So what are some of those songs?
Some of them, I mean, you probably know all of them. I hope everybody knows all of them. Bohemian Rhapsody is one, of course.
Classic.
They're all classics. Painted Black, Rolling Stones, Jailhouse Rock, Elvis. Like some odd ones, No Scrubs, from TLC. Yeah. All hits, but some of them were a little bit of a surprise. Creep from Radiohead, that was another one. That was, again, a classic indie rock hit, but wow, okay, one of the all-time most streamed. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that. Did anything else surprise you?
Well, John Bon Jovi was on there, but I don't think there were some where there were artists on there, but it wasn't actually their best song, in my perspective. Like AC/DC's Thunderstruck, for example, far from AC/DC's most classic heavy metal song, but it's there. Elton John's Tiny Dancer. I mean, all of that stuff he did through the 70s, such classic stuff, amazing songs. Nothing from Yellow Brick Road, at least not that I saw, and Tiny Dancer's on there. So hard to say what the public wants.
Interesting. So why do you think that this music stands the test of time?
There's a saying, I don't remember who said it, but I can't ever get it out of my head, that all of life boils down to a Bob Dylan or a Beatles song. And I think that's what you get. Now, Scrubs may be an outlier here, I got to say, Thunderstruck as well. But, every one of these songs, it obviously hit a zeitgeist at the time, whether it was Elvis Presley, Jailhouse Rock, or Creep in the angst-ridden 1990s. They hit a zeitgeist, they hit a cultural theme that resonates, and it also, I think every one of them has some expression of the universal, some theme, some universal life theme that all of us can go, I get that emotion, and that is the kind of song. Plus, it has to have a catchy hook.
Of course. So do you think that streaming today keeps this older music relevant?
It certainly seems to be, at least if you look at the marketplace. I mean, the way people are scooping up music catalogs and individual songs. And these are not music investors, typically. These are financial investors. KKR is in this business. Goldman Sachs is in this business. And they have pushed the multiples up for music publishing and recorded music royalties we're seeing to triple what they were just a few years ago. Now, why is that? Well, the music business was dying 10 years ago. Streaming comes along. They hated it at first. They fought it because they call it the river of nickels. They were turning dollars into nickels.
And why was it dying?
It was dying because nobody was buying CDs anymore. Napster had ripped open the door to free file sharing, and it took them more than a decade to figure out how to monetize that file sharing. Well, that evolved into Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and we all love it because now we have access to everything at any time. So that's definitely bringing value not only to the older songs, it's bringing a predictability to the revenue stream of music.
Yeah, and who do you think, let's pretend we are 70 years in the future from now and the official charts company makes this list again. Who do you think the artists of today are that are still going to be relevant 70 years from now?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's really difficult for artists these days. I mean, think about it. I can remember this. You probably can't. But if you were a Bruce Springsteen fan, you would get an album every 18 months. Then the artist would go out on the road. Then they would go into the recording studio. And you would wait for that album to come out. And you'd sit there and you'd listen to both sides. And you'd read all of the notes. You had this emotional connection to these artists. Everything's moving so fast now. Social media, so you're in constant attention. And the attention span of the public moves so fast. So I think it's probably less of who the artists are who will be streamed than what are the songs that will be streamed. And the other day I was walking out to a show, and the pedicabs were going past me, and 3 of them were blaring Jay-Z's New York.
Okay.
And, it's a universal city. It's an iconic city. It's an iconic artist. It's an iconic song. It's a great hook. That's the kind of song like Frank Sinatra's New York, New York. People will be playing that for years to come. Probably Radiohead's Creep. Similar thing. It just taps into a certain feeling that everyone can relate to. It's got a very catchy hook. Pharrell Williams, Happy. That's a song that you and I are going to be listening to.
That's going to be playing Weddings to Come.
Yes, exactly.
Great. So I want to move on now to Twitter news. Big news out of Twitter the past few weeks, which Elon Musk took over, and it's been a little turbulent since then.
A little.
Yeah, a little's an understatement. So first, over the past weekend, he suspended Kathy Griffin for impersonating him. Do you think that the punishment here fits the crime?
I don't think that anything that's happening at Twitter right now fits any norm, but that's Elon Musk, right? I mean, here's a man who said he was purchasing Twitter ostensibly to create a digital town square that was unimpeded by any bias. Well, he seems to have a pretty thick skin on most things. He engages freely, contentiously or not. This one seemed like an odd one. I mean, there are plenty of people making fun of him for this deal. Plenty of people impersonating him and saying all sorts of things. What she did, I think it far exceeds the crime for sure.
Yeah, and he responded to this, quote, going forward, any Twitter handles engaging in impersonation without clearly specifying parody will be permanently suspended. What do you think of that policy?
I mean, it seems to me like it's just doing the same thing that he criticized the previous management for. I mean, I think we are all smart enough to realize what parody is, and I think we all know, some people probably don't pay as much attention to, that there's a lot of junk on Twitter. It's not all true. I mean, he's making himself the arbiter of what is parody and what isn't, and what is allowable and what isn't. Mm-hmm. And it is, again, he ostensibly bought this so that could not be done. So it's another case of capricious Elon Musk proving that he's going to do what he wants, no matter what anybody says.
Yeah, do you think Twitter will turn back to normal, or do we just have to brace ourselves for this Elon Musk era?
I look at Elon Musk like the Donald Trump of capitalism. Put on your seatbelt. I mean, look, everyone is saying this is a stupid deal. Mm-hmm. And it even looked that way when he was seemed to be trying to get out of the deal just weeks after he got into the deal or made the offer. But here's a guy who built what is now the most valuable car company in the world in just a matter of a couple of decades without ever involving any of the major car manufacturers on the planet. Mm-hmm. A guy who's basically the essence of the U.S. space program, getting satellites into space. He's defied the odds in the past. So who knows? This could be a failed investment, but it's going to be a bumpy ride, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's pretty unpredictable. But another celebrity that got in a little bit of Twitter trouble this week, Kanye West, yay. There's no surprise there. He's been filled with controversy the past couple of weeks. So he got a tweet taken down for saying the N-word. But I want to talk about his fall more broadly. In the wake of controversy surrounding him, Morning Consult conducted a recent survey that found some interesting things about the public's opinion on Ye. Can you explain?
Yeah, it's not surprising. There's a good portion of the country that just wants nothing to do with Ye at the moment, whether it's music or his sneakers or anything else that he touches. That's certainly not a surprise. I mean, here is someone kind of like Elon Musk, kind of like Donald Trump. Courts controversy is going to do what he wants, say what he wants. He's in a little more of a fragile position because he doesn't have the vast amount of wealth that Elon Musk has. Mm-hmm. His wealth was his status as a billionaire was tied up in one deal with Adidas, and he lost that, and he walked away from the Gap. And his music is Elon Musk continues to produce success. Kanye is not exactly doing that right now.
Yeah, his businesses definitely have seemed to come to a standstill, and he's faced controversy in the past, but is this different this time?
It feels different. I was working in the music business when Kanye pulled his shenanigans at the Grammys with Taylor Swift, and he was one of the executives, was a close confidant. And I remember we were sitting in a room at the afternoon when he was supposed to go on Jay Leno that night and talk about the whole thing. And it was very clear to everybody in the room that he was not in a strong mental state, and he should not be allowed to go on to the Tonight Show and talk about this. And eventually the whole thing, I believe, was scuttled. But that was a very dramatic moment, at least for the people who were there to basically protect the revenue that Kanye was bringing into the company, which is music revenue, and that's what he was at the time, pretty much, a rapper-producer. There was panic, and they pulled it back off the ledge. And later came the Adidas deal, the Gap deal, and all the other stuff that Ye got into. This time is the culture has kind of turned on him, it feels like. I said this last time, he is a musical genius.
Mm-hmm.
He has produced some incredible stuff. He could do it again. But this does feel quite different.
Yeah, and you've already said Forbes removed him from the billionaires list because of that deal with Adidas that went south. So does this sentiment towards Ye signal worse things financially to come for him?
He's not. There have been entertainers who have gone broke. And Kanye's earnings didn't far exceed many of them. He just, because it was sneakers and it was a consumer product, we could value it differently than just, hit record after hit record. So, all entertainers have to court attention, and many of them court controversy.
Mm-hmm.
So, you look at an artist like Rihanna, another entertainment billionaire. She courted controversy this year as well, very recently.
Can you explain?
Yeah, she originally said that she would not participate in the Super Bowl ever or link up with the NFL because of the blacklisting of Colin Kaepernick. Well, she's announced that she will be performing at the Super Bowl halftime show.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Depp, who is not exactly in high standing in culture at the moment, he was the centerpiece of her fashion show that just happened last week. And that seemed to go off just well. The world her fans have seemed to have forgiven her for linking up with the NFL. She's now got the hit song in the upcoming movie Wakanda. So, she's also a billionaire for the same reason that Ye is a billionaire, not from music, but from taking her fame and moving it into consumer products, in this case, beauty and a lingerie line. And, she's courting just enough controversy because it keeps you in the headlines. It makes you valid. It keeps you current. It keeps you vibrant. That's the right kind of controversy in entertainment. Entertainers should court. Kanye may have thought he was doing that. Who knows what he was thinking, to be quite honest. But it hasn't worked. It went too far.
Yeah, definitely. But has this been a long time coming for Ye, or people just can't come back because the anti-Semitic remarks, he really doubled and tripled down on those?
Yeah, it's really hard to get inside the thinking there. The thing that I remember, can't say this, we know because we've reported it, that all of the advisors, we've worked with this camp for many years to basically determine how big his entertainment business is, how big his fortune is, and that entire team that we spoke to just a few months ago is gone. They don't work with him, and they're gone. They're all gone.
Was that their decision or his decision?
Unclear. Some say they left on their own volition. Some say they were pushed. It doesn't matter. They're all gone.
Yeah.
That's not a sign of stability. So, and I believe the quote that we used, I can't remember exactly, but when we asked who is the person that we should talk to for official response from the House of Ye, and the person said, well, I'm the person for the moment. So
okay, that's an indication there.
We don't know if he's getting any kind of outside advice or if he wants it. And if he doesn't get it and he keeps going down this path, in terms of pure finances, it's not a positive.
Yeah, and you mentioned he's a musical genius, as we know. I mean, he's had hit after hit after hit for decades. But now, according to this poll, only 17% of adults are either interested or somewhat interested in streaming his music. Do you think is that surprising to you?
On the surface, yes. But as I think about it, he really, hasn't had a hit for a good number of years.
Yeah.
So, and rap music just historically, again, aside from the Jay-Z song that I mentioned before in New York, there's a few that stand the test of time. A number of Biggie songs that you'll hear always, number of Tupac songs you'll always hear. They tend not to have the life that rock songs have, or jazz standards have, or soul songs have. They just don't. They fade quicker. So his stuff, which was really hot in the late 90s, mid 2000s, it's not relevant, not fault of his, not fault of the music. It just doesn't have the long-term resonance. So he needs to put out new stuff. If he wants to stay relevant as a musician, he's going to need some new stuff.
And is there an appetite for that, if not now, in the future?
For him in particular?
Yeah.
Again, if it's good, if he can dig deep into that reservoir of talent that he has and get out of the headspace of trying to do something and just feeling it and doing, it's a classic thing. You just come from the heart. If he actually comes from the heart, maybe it's an album that's just sort of a self-reflective thing with lots of great, hooks on it, and that people just love because it's vulnerable and open and catchy. Sure, that's a smash hit.
Yeah. And
don't know if he's in a place to do that.
Yeah, and aside from music-wise, in the fashion space, he was huge. Do you think there's any coming back for him there?
I see that as less likely. I think culturally he's very toxic now. It's hard to say exactly who was designing those shoes. Clearly there's help because it involved, Michael Jordan doesn't design his shoes without Nike, neither does LeBron James, neither does Kyrie Irving, neither did Kanye. I'm sure they have a hand in it, and some of them may be better at it than others, and I believe Ye always said that he was very instrumental in the designs. He probably was. He's very creative. Could he go to somebody else and do it? Sure. But, Nike and Adidas, they're the big giants in this. Like, if you really want to make a splash, have the kind of splash that made him a billionaire, you're going to need one of those two companies or Skechers or somebody big, and they're not going to touch him.
And do you think, could you foresee a future where he's back on the Forbes billionaire list?
I don't.
So finally, I do want to talk about the box office. According to The Wrap, the October box office hit a 21-year low. Why do you think that is?
COVID, basically. There's been a production slowdown. There's been an audience slowdown and a production slowdown, and that's hitting them. I think there were half as many movies or 50% fewer movies that came out this summer than came out in the summer of 2019. So, and plus Hollywood has a shiny new toy, which is the streaming business. Nobody, the theater isn't dead. We all love going to the movie theater, and this weekend is a pretty big telling moment, which is the release of Wakanda, the second Black Panther movie. So there's just been a lack of product to drive people into the seats.
So what do you think needs to change for people to be getting back in those seats?
There's going to have to be good movies. And again, the latter part of the year is stronger, at least the industry considers it, is stronger than the summer. And the summer is usually, there's two really big times of year for movies, summer releases and holiday releases. Coming up, we've got Wakanda, we've got the Spielberg autobiographical Fableman movie, we've got Avatar coming out. So there's a lot of big movies, and everyone in Hollywood is pointing to 2023 as a much stronger year release-wise, production-wise, than 2022 was. So I think 2023 is going to be a bigger box office year than 2022, which is down because it's still coming out of the effects of COVID, where people are afraid to go to the theaters, and the effects of streaming, where Hollywood is still trying to figure out how to deal with this new dynamic, where it used to be you put a movie in the theaters and you didn't get it anywhere else until 3 months from then.
Now you can see it same day with some streaming services.
And we all love that. There's no going back.
Yeah. What do you think was the bigger hit to movie theaters, COVID or streamers, or was it just an unlucky coincidence that they both kind of came to fruition at the same time?
I think it was a combination of the two. I think streaming was already had some serious momentum behind it when COVID hit, and when COVID hit, I mean, we saw it with Amazon. Suddenly there's an Amazon truck on every street at every moment of the day. That didn't exist in 2018, at least not that I remember. It changed the world, and we were all stuck at home for 2 years or however long it was, and we wanted to watch stuff, so they just started putting everything on TV. And entertainment has been shifting into the home for many years. It's just not it wasn't so dramatic. There were home movie theaters. Everyone can have a surround system in their home, a flat screen television, so you can reproduce the movie experience in your home with a certain level of contentment, and so that it's been that migration for many years. It was just COVID with streaming being able to fill in the gap that just kind of pushed it over the edge.
And can you foresee theaters dying in general?
I don't see them dying. I mean, we've been writing about the theater business at Forbes for many years. I wrote a story about two chains in California that were battling, and I remember it was a city, Ontario, California, and there was a 10 or 15 multiplex theater chain by AMC, and then right across the street, Edwards Theater, who was defending its territory because it was at the time, the Southern California movie chain, built its own 17 or 18 movie theater complex right across the street. So you had,
wow.
in a city like Ontario, you had like 54 screens just right across the street from one another. It was a classic overbuild, and and everyone was doing it. Cinemark was doing it, AMC was, all of them were doing it, Regal, and the theater business collapsed. And then the number of screens were cut in half. I can't remember what the number was, but they were severely reduced. That theaters will not go out of business, but only the strong will survive. And there will be fewer theaters in the world in 2023 than certainly there were in 2019. And the kinds of movies that go into those theaters will be very different. There will be movies that are made in Hollywood, like Wakanda, like Avatar. They're going to go to the movies, and they're going to stay in the theaters, and they'll probably have that limited window first, 30 days maybe now, 60 days, who knows. But those are the kind of movies that Maverick, everyone wanted to see that in the theater. That's why it's a $2 billion movie.
Yeah.
But, a George Clooney, Julia Roberts movie, well, you're more than happy to watch that at home on Saturday night.
Of course. And do you foresee movie theaters bouncing back, maybe not to what they were in the beginning of the 2000s, the 90s, but pre-pandemic times, 2018, 2019?
In terms of dollar volume?
Mm-hmm.
No. I don't think anybody expects that. I don't think it will bounce back from 2020, 2021. I think we will see increases from there. It's hard to see a world where we're hitting the levels of 2018, 2019, where box office records were being. It's hard to see another box office record being broken. But I say that, it's hard to see from here. 10 years ago, no one could see the music industry surviving because it had been cut in half. Well, I don't know if they've hit it. They're very close, or they've surpassed it. Either way, they're back to the record revenue number they had when CDs were at their peak in the 1990s. So, hard to say.
I know. Hopefully they can adapt. But Rob LaFranco, thank you so much.
Pleasure.